Hello boys and girls, today we are going to make a fun little fall inspired landscape that will have a house in it. So first thing I want to do is towards the bottom I want to make sure I write my name nice and big. So I'm sorry that for you it kind of looks a little backwards, but it's okay. So you see how big my name is. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top part of my paper and I'm going to fold it in half, just like that. And then I'm going to open it back up. So as you can see, I've got like a line there, that little crease. And what I want to do is I want to use my pencil and draw a line where that crease is. And now I want to kind of take an approximate guess as to where the middle is. And I'm just going to put a little dot there. Now, the next part is I'm going to go from the dot to each corner. So I'm going to go one side and then the other side. And if I don't hit the corner completely, that's okay. But you want to get as close to the corner as you possibly can. So now the next part I want to do is I want to do the house at the end of the path. So I'm going to first start with a square, and I'm going to try and make it as centered as possible. And now I'm going to add a triangle up top. And that's going to be the top part of my house, not the roof. The roof is something different. And I erase that line, and now this is one whole house. And now this is where the roof comes in. So I'm going to do a parallel line right here, and then a parallel line right here, and then I'm going to connect each end just like that. And then I'm going to add little curved lines that will kind of make it look like there are shingles or tiles on the roof. Just like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a door. And you can make your door however you want it. I'm also going to erase that little dot right there. And I'm going to add some windows, and you can add as many different kinds of windows or shapes for windows as you want. You're free to do whatever you would like with this. This is where you get to be creative a little bit and have a little fun. I'm even going to add a little chimney right here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some trees. And I'm going to just do the trunk of the tree because I'm going to end up adding the branches a little bit later. So I'm going to start with the trunk of the tree, and I'm going to kind of start with a little curve line going up and then make a point kind of like that and then go down. And notice it's not huge. We're going to be playing with size a little bit, and especially because this house is kind of in the distance. We're doing something with what we call perspective. So if you ever look at a picture, no matter the object, if it's far away, it's going to look teeny tiny. So this house is in the distance, so it's smaller than it probably would look. Now I'm going to add another tree. And the same thing goes for trees too. Trees, hills, mountains, anything that might be in the distance is probably going to look a little bit smaller than it actually is than if you were like standing right next to it. Now I'm going to add one more bigger tree right down here. And I'm going to start the same way that I did with that one. I'm going to go up. And then I'm going to go down. Notice this one's actually a little bit bigger than the other one. It's also definitely longer. That's because it's closer to us. I'm going to do the same thing over here. So right now I have my tree trunks ready to go. Now I'm going to want to start coloring. And the first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to color with my path. And this can be different ways that you color. If you want to color with markers, you can. If you want to color with colored pencils, you can. If you want to color with crayons, you can. It's also whatever you have at home. I'm going to do markers just for the sake of argument. And I'm going to start with brown. And I'm going to kind of do like streaks going down. And notice I'm just kind of like really streaking. I'm not really trying to get solid colors. Except like really close to the door. That's where I'm going for solid. But everywhere else, I'm just kind of streaking downward. And I'm going to end up doing the same kind of technique when I do the trees actually, because that'll actually make the trees look really nice, almost realistic too. And as I get further down, I'm kind of getting lighter and lighter because I want to mix in the yellow marker that I have. So kind of like almost either like a dirt path or like a dirt road or something like that. So I don't want it to all just be brown. I want to kind of make it look like it's going from dark to light. And that's where the yellow comes in. So now I'm going to take my yellow and I'm going to kind of mix it in a little bit. And I'm making sure I'm not going on top of my name too much. Now sometimes when you mix the colors, especially if you're using markers, you have to be a little bit careful. You might want to start with your lighter color first, just because trying to do darker colors on top of light doesn't always work. It works with this brand, but that doesn't always happen. So you might need to be a little bit careful. So that's why I say you could do this pretty much anything. It is up to you. So there's my path. I'm going to keep the brown out, and I'm actually going to start with my trees. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the path with the trees. I'm going to kind of do like streaky, because we think about the fact that trees have a lot of bark. And the bark is a kind of rough texture. Texture is how something feels, boys and girls. And so I want to kind of give this that sort of textured look all the way to the ground. I'm going to do that for each one of these before I add any branches. And if you want to, you can like outline it, but I would try not to. Just because it'll look much nicer if you don't outline it. So now I finished that. So now I'm going to add the branches, and the branches are really, I'm just going to add like little thin lines just like this. And this is why I didn't want to do like any outlining, because this is where I can kind of play with this. You can do your branches however you want. Just like that. And that actually gives it a really nice look. So now what I need to do is I need to make this look like it's fall time. And so to do that, I'm actually going to use more sort of fall colors. So that means I'm going to be using some red, yellow, and orange for leaves. So actually what I'm going to do is and to do the leaves, I'm really just going to kind of almost circle around in a way, just to kind of first give myself a sense of, okay, where is everything? So maybe I just let's start with the front trees, because they're going to be covering what's behind them. So maybe I start like this, just to give me a sense of, okay, here's where the leaves are. And if I go off the page, that's okay. So that's a start. And what I could actually do is I could kind of almost do like circles inside, kind of like this. So it's not fully colored one color. So that way, maybe in a few minutes, if I wanted to, I could go back in with, let's say, red. And you want to be careful though when you're drawing on top, especially on the top of the branches. Just because like the brown might get lost. So that's where one is, and maybe even I go back in to add some more orange just to kind of brighten it up. And that actually looks pretty cool. Maybe I'll even add just a little more orange just down here just because. So as I go on, I'm going to keep doing that sort of swirl technique, like the curly line technique as I keep going. Because that actually helps kind of make some cool texture. And really kind of gives that like a bit of a full look. So I'm going to keep kind of doing that. And remember, you always want to do the front ones first. So the bigger ones you should always do first before you do the back ones. Because these, the front ones, as you can see, they overlap the ones behind. Now I'm going to do the last one back here. And that is, those are my trees right there. They look really, really cool. I love how they look. So now that I've finished my trees, what I want to do is the ground. The grass is obviously green, and we can put like leaves on top of it and everything like that. But right now I want to do the grass, and the texture for the grass is short lines, just like we've been doing. So I'm going to keep doing short lines, and I'm going to keep kind of overlapping them because that's going to help create the texture of grass. And notice I'm starting from the back and sort of working my way down. Because that helps with the illusion that the grass is coming forward rather than going the other way. If I was going the other way, it wouldn't work as well. Now I do the other side, and once again, I'm working my way from the back to the front. And I'm trying to actually keep it straight up and down just because it actually looks a little bit better, especially you see on this side, it looks a little bit better. And there's my grass. Now I want to focus on my house. And your house you can kind of play around with if you want to. You can, change the color. I'm actually going to do some red bricks for the chimney up here. Maybe I even have a red door just for the fun of it. I mean, your house, you can have fun customizing. You can do kind of whatever you want with it. Maybe I have like a brown roof. So I'm not going to completely color in my house just because, this is where you can have some fun with it. Have fun with your house. What I'm going to look at, boys and girls, is coloring my sky. Now, remember, the sky doesn't stop at a certain point. It actually goes all the way down. So I'm going to take my blue, and I'm going to start carefully coloring all the way down. I say carefully because I still want this to look very nice. Now I'm going to keep coloring all the way down. I'm also being careful because I don't want it to overlap too much on the leaves. I'm going to keep coloring. And I notice that when I'm actually coloring in the sky, sometimes doing short little strokes sometimes works better. Sometimes longer strokes work better. It is all up to you. But I'm still being nice and careful. See, like even in this little part. And I keep going until I fill up the entire sky. I'm going to add just a little bit of brown detail right here on my windows. Went too far there. And there we go, boys and girls. There is your lovely little house during fall time.